Welcome to the Vivo Barefoot Health broadcast. I'm Jacko from the School of Calisthenics, the home of movement, strength and play. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the Vivo Barefoot YouTube channel, hit subscribe somewhere down here. And today I'm going to take us through a little exercise for runners. We're going to look at a lunge variation, how we can increase our stability on single leg, which is going to make us more efficient for running. And within that, we're going to look at loosening off these hip flexors that often get tight from some of the sitting and sedentary patterns that we get stuck in. But we're going to have some fun moving through some of these shapes. We're going to challenge a little bit of our balance and also our strength. And then just one thing to mention about the Vivos, just remember, if you haven't yet tried the Vivos yet, then you get, the research has been showing that just 6 months walking, let alone doing running and these exercises I'm going to show you is going to improve your running, walking for 6 months in a pair of Vivos increases your foot strength by 60%. So all you got to do is put them on and then you're sort of there for the strength. So think about that. You can do this, obviously I've got them on, you can do this barefoot as well. It's going to give you that sort of grounding and ability to feel the floor when we're going through some of these movements. But we're actually going to start because we're going to progress from a lunge position in a lunge shape where you're going to come down onto the floor. If you find, if you're on a hard floor, you might want to put like a little mat or something underneath your kneecap to make it comfortable. But we're just going to get into a nice shape where we've got a vertical line from knee, hip to shoulder. And we're going to sit in this position, and I just want to get used to tucking the pelvis underneath so I can squeeze that glute, and I want you to feel the relationship between the stretch you're going to feel through the front of that hip flexor, so the front of the back leg, when you tuck the pelvis under and squeeze that bum. You can check that the glute is on and then relax there. I want us to swap sides. So the other leg at the back, nice straight line through there, nice and tall with our posture through the trunk. Tuck the pelvis underneath, squeeze that back glute and feel the stretch on that hip flexor. If I show you from that front on, so tuck under, squeeze that back glute and you feel the stretch much more through that back hip flexor. Now, we're going to swap back to the other legs. We're going to go through two different variations of this lunge as we're just warming up to create a little bit of length through these hip flexors before we start to strengthen them as well. So the first one is taking this nice upright position. I'm going to actually lean forward into that front leg. And then I'm taking the back leg into extension. So my hip is actually in extension now on this back leg. Front leg is into flexion. Again, try to tuck the pelvis underneath. We're lengthening here now as well, so you're going to find it potentially harder to engage that glute. But if we can, squeeze that glute on and then just take a nice breath in through the nose and then soften, breathe out and sink into that front leg as you breathe out. Try not to arch the back too much just because we're going into this hip extension. Keep that bum tucked under and just sink into there, and we'll do another breath in this slightly deeper position we're in now. So breathe in, breathe out, and just sink into that front leg. And we're starting to get into a deeper lunge position, but we're also loading up this front leg. I'll swap sides and I'll show you from the front, so you can see the leg from the front. So here's our normal position, and then looking to lean forward into that front leg. Back leg is going to extension. Tuck the pelvis underneath here, so squeezing that glute, make sure you can touch it, make sure it stays on. You're going to feel the stretch a little bit more through the front of here. Don't arch the back, stay nice and tall, but then breathe in through the nose, expand through the ribs, breathe out, and just sink into that front leg. Keep the knee tracking in line with the toes. That's going to be good for our knee stability and just health and protection of the knee. In this new position, breathe in, expand through the lower ribs, breathe out, and just sink into that front leg a little bit more. So we're stacking up with a little bit more strength and weight here. We're looking a little bit of ankle dorsiflexion as well for free in this one, and then we're keeping that hip back leg into that extension and keeping the glute switched on. Last variation before we get into some of these movements is we're going to actually hold this back leg if we can. So I'm not going to lean forward into this one, I'm staying nice and tall, but I'm going to try to grab my back leg if I can. If you can't, you can just put your foot up onto like a stool or bench or something, but something where this back leg is, the foot is raised up. And then in this position, we're going to do a little bit of PNF work where we're going to contract against the stretch for 5 seconds. We do that 3 times. So where my foot is placed into my hand, I'm going to be pushing my foot down into my actual hand. So I'm trying to push my foot down towards the floor. I'm squeezing my bum as well. Those two things need to be connected. So glute is on, pelvis tucked underneath, but pushing the foot into the hand for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. You might then be able to pull it a little bit further. You go again, push, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, relax. One more, pull a bit further, and push, 5, 4, 3, glute 1, 2, 1, and relax. Drop that knee down, I'll swap sides. So you can see that the weight. So I'm holding this back leg, or say it could be up onto a bench or something. Tuck the pelvis underneath so that glute is on, pushing the foot into the hand. Stay tall the rest of the body. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, relax. Then you might be able to pull that leg a little bit further. And then new position, tuck under again. Then push, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, relax. Pull it a little bit further, there we go. Trying to get it up close towards the bum if we can. Tuck under, squeeze the bum, push with the foot, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good, if you're struggling with balance on that, you can obviously go close to a wall or have a chair or something next to you, but it's also good to literally challenge our balance a little bit, because we're going to start to do that through these different lunge patterns we're going to go into now. So I'm going to swap back to my other leg, but hopefully we should be feeling like our hips are starting to feel a little bit looser. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to look at some lunge patterns, and then going to take that into some single leg work where you're going to really sort of challenge our midline stability, a little bit of our balance, but it's going to be progressive for you. And these two nice ones, you could use this as a little bit of a separate lower body session. You could use it, literally just do 1 or 2 sets as part of a warm-up before you do some of your running, some of your runs and you're training for literally whatever type of running or exercise that you do. So our normal lunge position, we'll have the foot tucked underneath now, and we're actually going to come from here and drive ourselves up to the top and come back down. That should be our normal lunge position, where we've got a knee stacked underneath our hip and our shoulder, and just literally coming up and down. I want you to just get used to a few repetitions of these. I'm actually not going to count the reps for you. We're just going to a little bit of a play of some variations. So as you go through that, we're literally loading this back hip flexor, and the weight is evenly distributed between the two. From here, I want you to start sliding your front foot out a little bit, and then drive up and straighten, particularly the front leg, and then come back down. Slide the front foot a little bit further, drive up, front leg straight, come down. And what we're trying to do is get progressively to a position where we're loading up this back hip flexor more, and literally starting the leg straight and coming down. So all the weight now is through this back hip flexor, which is lengthening, but equally I'm strengthening it because its whole time is working under tension and load. So we'll swap over. I'll say this way around so you can see. So normal lunge position, stand up, and as we come down, try not to load. We're going to load up this front leg on the second exercise, so don't come forward onto this front leg. I want to be shifting my weight towards the back leg. And then again, start to just slide that front leg out, thinking about keeping the weight on this back leg. So this back hip flexor is being lengthened, particularly on this controlled eccentric, and I'm trying to get that front foot and leg straighter gradually until literally I'm in this shape here, front foot and leg straight, come down and back up. And then we can rotate and switch and play with those others, and from one side to the next. The variation I'm going to give you to do is to challenge our midline, is going to be some rotation. So we bring a little bit of thoracic rotation. This is going to challenge your balance. You might want to be close to a wall, so you've got something to hold on to, or a little bit of chair either side of you, just as you get warmed up into this. But you're going to go into your best variation that we were just in. So try and get yourself to a point where you can keep the front heel down and the back leg loading up. And then I want you just in this position, just get used to, can you touch one heel on one side, and can we touch the other? And just feel what that thoracic rotation is like. The other thing that gets tight for us particularly is that thoracic, not just our hip flexors. So this is a great little variation for that. So try that on both sides, and then you'll go, well, that's a bit easy because we're not actually up off the floor, but that's what we're going to build up to after this. So get used to leaning back, keep that glute squeezed on, and then just getting used to what that rotation is like again, you may need something to support you. And then we'll swap over. And then this time, you're going to come down. Before your knee touches the floor, can you touch? Maybe you do need the wall. Can you touch? And back up. Slowly, the other way. Back up. And we can try, turn around the other side. So you can see, use your hands for balance, feel the floor, either your bare foot, so you can feel the floor, do one rotation each side, and then load up that back leg, come through and touch, come through and touch, swap over, have fun with the balance, challenge it, here we go, down, the concentration. Back through. So you can just play with this and you'll notice, you'll feel the hip starting to open up. You'll feel that it's quite hard. You're getting a bit of a sweat on, a little bit like me. Then you're going to feel that. So starting to think about how can I loosen off these hip flexors? How can I build strength as we're lengthening? And you see like we're challenging our balance and our stability and our control. Now, that stability through midline, connecting that with some rotations and some thoracic work, along with being able to control our hip and knee stability, is vital to be able to good running and efficiency in those running mechanics. But strength is a huge one as well. So this is where this final lunge variation is a shrimp squat, or variation of, we're going to look to load up the front leg now, rather than that last one we were loading up the back leg on that diagonal lunge stretch, as we'd call it. So what we're going to look at is getting us into a position where now, rather than leaning back and this front leg being straight, we go back to that normal lunge shape. I'm actually going to lean forward into this, and then I'm going to stand up. Bring the front leg through to a balanced position. Bring it back down, come through. So rather than being straight upright, I am leaning forward, that slight forward trunk angle, but core engaged, loading this front leg, drive up, come through, hold your balanced position, come back down. We swap sides. Or turn around and don't swap sides, so swap sides. So lean forward into this front leg, stand up, come through, drop down, there. Lean forward, core engaged. So we're starting to load up the strength on this front leg now. Okay, so a couple of reps on each side of that. What you can then start to do is, can you untuck the toes on the back leg? So we start using the back leg less and less. So I come into this position here, through, slide myself back down. Let's try that on both sides. So the difference being, I'm now gradually starting to use the back leg less. So rather than the toes being tucked underneath, flatten them out, lean forward into this front leg, and then I'm trying to drive up and use the strength of this front leg more than anything. So really get that body weight over. Don't just duck down, so keep a nice trunk angle, ideally somewhere at 45 degrees, but we're trying to not use this back leg as we come through. One thing we can try is to actually pull that foot off the floor before you stand up, and then put the knee down before putting the toe down. That might be quite challenging for some of us, but it's a good one to start to literally not have any weight through that back leg, stand up, control ourselves, back down. Start getting used to only using this front leg, because I'll swap over now and give you another variation to play with. So you're going to find what level you're at, and this next one you might find that you actually get stuck at the bottom. But what we're going to do is the stretch that we had at the beginning, where we're into this shape here, we're holding that back leg. We're literally going to, can we actually lean forward, load up this front side, and actually stand up from there? That would be our shrimp squat. And then again, control ourselves back down. We can rep these out, or we can rest in between each one. So there's some variations there for you. I'll swap to this side, so we'll make sure we're doing both. So we had literally untucking the toes, lean forward into it, standing up, control ourselves back down. Can we actually pull the foot off the floor, stand up, and then again, come down, knee touches first, rather than the foot. So so the foot would stay pretty off. And then can we start to play around with this position? Ooh, look at your balance again. But that stretch that we're in when we're here, can we get up whilst actually having to keep that back leg under tension? Whilst we're holding that back leg, I'll show you one front on, whilst we're holding this back leg, we've got to think like hip flexors, rec fem, so rectus femoris is on complete stretch. He's making it then harder for us to put load and strength through this front leg, and all of a sudden we take our single leg squat and you go, it feels quite hard to just do that lunge or that single leg squat type of shape on that front leg. So we're building a lot of strength. The balance aspect of it gives us a lot of stability, but then equally we're gaining some of that, that hip flexor lengthening, which can be so detrimental depending on those sort of sedentary lifestyles that we find ourselves in a lot of the time. So bear in mind, I've shown you some variations there. You're not all going to be able to hold your back leg and just stand up straight away. And what you'll find is literally that holding that back leg, the tightness through there will inhibit literally your ability to stand up and push through. And you'll find yourself sort of like in here going, no, I don't feel like I can get anywhere. Try to make sure you load up onto that front leg. And it might be that you just have a little bit of a band or something so that your foot maybe is over the shoulder, so the foot isn't actually me holding onto it, so I've got to give myself a little bit of leeway, but then start to build up your ability to lengthen through that back leg. But then front on wise, types of thing we're thinking about is this hip and knee stability, trying to keep that knee in line with those toes as we stand up, control our balance, and keep those knees tracking through, rather than trying to stand up on that knee, wanting to dive onto the inside and the foot rolling in as well. So make sure that you've got either barefoot or your Vivo so you can really feel what the floor is like. Remembering the training barefoot or using a barefoot shoe like the Vivos is going to give us more strength through those intrinsic muscles within the foot. So really good to build that up whilst we're doing some exercises like this. So we're getting foot strength, we're getting knee and hip stability, we're getting lengthening through those hip flexors. Everything that you're going to need for good quality lower body training that's going to supplement and help you with, whether you're running or whatever other exercises that you're doing, is going to really help you maximize the benefits from that. So I hope you found that helpful. I've been Jacko from the School of Calisthenics. We are the home of movement, strength and play. Thanks for watching the Vivo Barefoot Health broadcast. And if you haven't yet subscribed, there should be either down there or up here somewhere. They'll put a subscribe button, and hope you've enjoyed that video.